My name is Mikael Gustafsson and I'm here from Xylem, and I will talk to you about a project that we've concluded, a three-year long project where we merged two Windchill instances basically from one on-premise instance to an instance in the PTC Cloud. So that's the main line of it all. But I like to see it like this. We had one instance that was named Tapir. That was the one that we promoted in Sweden. That's the on-premise one that we, the brand that I represent, which is Flykt, had as our baby and made everything with. So that was the one that aimed for the stars and ended up in the cloud, and that's the XGV instance, which is Xylem Global Vault. So this will become clearer as I continue here, but the outline today is a little bit about Xylem as a company, for those who don't know us, my team, which is engineering enablement, the project itself, and where do we go from here? And then we open for questions at the end. All right, so Xylem is this is like a sales pitch, but we are a global leader in water solutions. And that means that we help our customers with all water-related, solving the issues, right, the problems. We support the entire life cycle. We do this by developing products that move water, like pumps and mixers. We have treatment that transforms water from like one quality to another type of quality. We measure, we optimize, and we maintain. So basically, from when you take water out of the ground, that's where it begins, right? Then you use it in some way. Maybe you take a shower, maybe you run an industrial plant, right? You consume a lot of water. So we make products and services to be able to like have a life cycle of water, that we don't consume or destroy water, right? So that's the challenge we're trying to solve for our customers. And our customers are in like all businesses. We have utilities like buildings here at the hotel, right? You can get water from a faucet, 23 stores even, high up in the air. When it rained last night, you didn't end up with water up until your knees, right? It somehow magically disappears, right? It goes into holes in the ground and then it just disappears. And that's where our type of products help, like societies, businesses, people, right? The company in itself is present globally, and you can see there is focus in Europe, North America, Australia, and some in Asia. And I mean, this is basically the industrialized regions of the world, right, where we have a lot of water usage and water challenges. I mean, there are different water challenges in like the African continent, right? But I mean, it's different areas of expertise that's needed than us, basically. Some numbers. We have been around for about 100 years. I saw Vestas began in 1898. The first signs of flight, or Flykt, the Swedish brand, is 1901. So we are 3 years younger than Vestas then, I assume. We produce a lot of patents. I mean, if you do the math, we have 5,100 patents over 100 years. That's 50 a year, almost one a week. So we are a very innovative company. We make some money, right? 8.1 billion. And our brand, or the one that we or my team represent, is about 1.5 billion. We are 23,000 people globally. And, we're present in 150 countries globally. So a little bit about my team. We are called Engineering Enablement, and we're almost all here. If you could just a short raise of hands. Oh, there they are, right? So the mission is in the name. We enable engineering, right? That's our mission and vision. And we divide ourselves under Fredrik Reuman's lead in 3 basic categories, and that's business system owners. That's where I am. And that means that we, from a business perspective, own the applications, the requirements, the training, the testing, the development, the improvements, etc. We have in the center field, Erik, who is a business analyst, and he has the opportunity to not be a expert in everything, so he can look a bit higher up, right, to see the bigger picture and help us who are more focused in what we do. And then we have a team who supports, or part of our team supports, tests and documents, applications, processes, etc. So that's us. Short on me, I see myself as somewhere right in the middle of IT and business. So I can translate the business requirements towards IT and IT requirements towards the business, because I'm equally comfortable sitting in an IT discussion or a business discussion, etc. So I see myself as the link in there between, so that we align on everything and that everything gets understood, and etc. And I focus mostly on PLM applications, and almost 80-90% of my time is in the PTC portfolio. So it's Parametric, it's Windchill, etc. So the mission is to make sure that the applications align with the requirements and the vision of the company and the management, etc. So been doing this for 5 years at Xylem, but I have about 20 years in the industry of experience. Everything complex makes me interested, so this is a great place to be, because this is difficult and complicated. Just to give you an idea of why we did this, is that my team is responsible for a lot of applications. And if you just have a look at this, you're not supposed to see what this is, but right here, maybe you recognize Parametric and Windchill. This is where data is initially born or changed, etc. And then at Xylem, we have a lot of applications. So the enrichment process, where we go from the idea to be able to market, sell, manufacture the product, it goes through a lot of applications. And this, of course, loops back and begins again, right? Another way to look at this is that we have, or this is the way we see the world, basically. It is that we have 3 high-level processes at the company. One is idea to market. We invent products, right? We reinvent them, improve them, etc. Then we have something called market to order. That is that we make it sellable, right? To enrich the data from an engineering to be able to sell it. And then we have order to cash, which is the high-level process for realizing the product, right? And if you divide that down, because this diagram has a lot of levels, but it doesn't help you to see them all. But if you get the green areas where my team is mostly involved, and you can divide that down into the processes that people actually perform, the actual use cases that our designers, etc., perform every day to work with our products. And if we look at it from the other way, or down from below, that's where the capabilities come, right? We have requirements, processes at the top, and how do we match this? That's our worldview, is that we match this by having applications or capabilities that support this. And today there is approximately 150 applications that support these top-level processes. And I'm convinced that's too many. So, I mean, that's the reasoning behind why we did this, like merge two Windchill instances, right? Because we need to reduce complexity. We have a too complex application landscape. If you focus on the green one, that's the Swedish or on-premise Windchill instance, and the blue one, there you have the two Windchills, and in between you have Creo Parametric. This is the way it looked like before the project. So we had custom integrations, custom code running in in Creo to make these two Windchill applications sync. And then the yellow one, XIP, is the integration platform where we send data to downstream processes and applications. So, to reiterate, we have Tapir, the on-premise one. It stands for Technical Administration Part Information Repository. That's the allegory. Or in this Windchill, we had one organization and one, or like the Swedish brand, those are Flight and Grindex, etc. In this Windchill, we had parts, BOMs, documents, change management, and we had integrations to ERP and sales tools as a part of the release process. The PTC Cloud Windchill instance, XGV, is Xylem Global Vault. And the difference being is that there we have 28 companies or organizations, where we are one. So there is us and there were 27 others. The Swedish organization used XGV primarily for CAD data management before the project only. And we had a few like release processes to feed customer-facing data to sales tools. So, reducing complexity, right? That was the key. That's why we did this. So we set a mission statement or a project scope, and that was to perform a as-is migration of all users, data, process, integrations, custom functionality, etc., all of this. And as a part of it, we did not just migrate it, we also merged it, in lack of a better word, meaning that we aligned processes, data, etc., in form of like a process improvements, process alignment, linking, associating of data, etc., a lot of technical stuff, right, to make this work. We removed the custom Xylem integration between the two Windchill instances, and we replaced a lot of Creo automation with a commercial tool called StigMaxim Smart Assembly. We had like custom Java code running in Creo before that helped us in this, and we removed that as well in this project. And as well to decommission the old on-premise instance and make sure that we had 10-year compliance. This is actually a difficult thing because we need to have 10 years retention of all data. That's a part of our business. We must guarantee like 10 years after the last part leaves the company. We need to be able to put or pull a complete technical file for any customer. So we put a strict process in place to make sure that we can bring the Tapir instance back to life 10 years from now, right? If we made a mistake in the merge project, right? Otherwise, we won't need it. And as well, I mean, we need to train all users because this is users. That's the difficult part here, right? The technical pieces is easy. It's ones and zeros, and then you have users, you have stakeholders, you have management, you have all of this, right? And if you have a look at it from a end user perspective, how did we sell this project, right, to the stakeholders? We would achieve one single truth of data because we had, before the project, we had graphical representation in one Windchill and non-graphical in another. That don't make sense, right? So now we have one unified application for this. We unified processes so that we release all types of data in the same release process instead of several. And all of this gives us takes us a quite large step towards a more manageable virtual product, right? Because the virtual product is the true product, right? The physical product is like copies of the digital product, right? Or replications. And by putting all data in one application, we get new opportunities, new possibilities to get a better digital product description, right? And to be successful in this project, we had to put together a quite extensive team, since we're a global company with everything that entails. It was my team that were responsible for all requirements or testing or approving of all deliverables in the project. We had engineering solutions, that's the IT owners of these applications at Xylem, and they coordinated the PTC Cloud team, right, to manage or run the cloud solution, XGV. We had the XIP team, the Xylem integration platform, that's the entity in Xylem that makes one application or process speak to another, like transfer data. And all other necessary teams, right? You have to move users in AD, you have to set up new machines, you have to have IT infrastructure, all of this, right? Networking. And most importantly, a steering committee, right? Who can take the tough decisions. Those are put together by the correct stakeholders from R&D and IT, basically. And we have a few external resources. One, who you may know, PDS Vision. They were responsible for the solution. How would we do this? And we had another PLM consultancy company who were involved in the beginning to look at this from the other side, right? Because PDS Vision was responsible for moving Tapir into XGV, and then we had another consultancy company who initially reviewed how might this affect the other already present 28 or 27 organizations in XGV. And then the PTC Cloud team, of course, that made everything cloud specific happen, standing up test environments and servers, infrastructure, stuff like that. There is a lot of risk in a project of this size and scope. One of the biggest ones were that we did this in an ongoing global pandemic. This should have stopped us, maybe, but we were brave, right? We had competing parallel projects, a lot of them. All applications and processes that were in scope for the projects were used in production 24/7, 365 globally. So we must not affect anything, right, while doing this. In the on-premise Windchill instance, we had numerous customizations, APIs, integrations, etc. As I said, we have aimed for the stars, so we have done a lot of stuff. We must not impact any of the other organizations during the project. And let me remind you, this was ongoing for 3 years, so users in data are in constant flux. Because, people start at the company, they leave the company, they get married, meaning they change their names, a lot of complexity. We have data in constant flux, at Xylem we have approximately 50,000 unique parts, which can be combined to 10 million product configurations that technically are sellable. We don't sell 10 million configurations, of course, but we have sales logic applied as well, so it's reduced, but nevertheless it's a lot of data. And on top of that, 2,000 to 2,500 technical changes per year, so everything is moving all the time. We had many teams globally in a pandemic, so most of us never met. We met after the project, not during. We had complex handovers because when one team were working, another was sleeping, right? We need to manage time. And all the other organizations need to be involved in testing as well, right? Because we need to make sure at all times that we're not affecting anything that they are doing. Along the way in a 3-year project, you can be sure that there will be security requirements that change, patches, etc. So I mean, even the technical pieces of this project were moving. We installed like security updates. We changed how users log into Windchill, like multi-factor authentication. There were a lot of things happening. And in the end, even though this took 3 years, more or less, to finalize, the last part of it were supposed to happen during 1 weekend. So that's a difficulty as well. And to achieve this, we had to divide the scope into several sub-projects. Not everybody could be a part of everything, so we had to parallelize a lot of efforts. We put one like main activity in place which ran the entirety of the project, which consisted of more or less only IT heavy work, right, to make sure that users, data, process, customization, all of this gets moved from one Windchill system to another. We planned this in 6 loops. The first 3 were to finalize all needed development and defining the process. I mean, how do you even do this? There is no like recipe. So we developed it along the project. The last 3 loops, they were after like the business sign-off that we are in agreement. This is the solution that we have approved. Then we continued for 3 more loops to like improve process, secure the process, optimizing runtimes, etc. Because I mean we must be able to do this in a weekend in the end, right? So we need to make this fast. And then we had a lot of sub-projects, and those sub-projects were run in parallel, and we made sure to deliver back up into the main activity all along, so that we got as much finished as possible when we had time, right? And one very, very difficult thing to do in a project like this is to make sure that you have a good grasp of all the requirements. Since these applications, the XGV and the Tapir, have been along for a very long time, people responsible for these systems have come and gone, requirements change over time, etc. Documentation is not always kept up to date. So what we did to make sure that we had a full grasp of the complexity here is to map all requirements, use cases for Tapir and XGV. And as a parallel activity from the business side, we made sure to merge these requirements, test cases, to make sure that application 1 plus application 2 becomes application 3, right? So that the final merged application has the same capabilities as the 2 that we began with, right? And for this we used a commercial tool which helped us to build this in like a hierarchical structure where we could build requirement structures, connect tests, almost like a bomb structure basically, and report bugs, so everything became one connected structure which we could follow up all along the project, like keep reporting on, see how much test coverage do we have, how many tests are green, how many bugs do we have, etc. all along. Yeah. From a technical perspective, we had to make sure that we know exactly what to do and when and how long it takes, etc. Because as I said earlier, there are a lot of participants, a lot of teams working globally 24/7. So you need to make sure that you have all activities. And for this, we created something called a runbook, where we basically listed everything, that every task in the entire project from top to bottom. And then we assigned responsibilities, like who is accountable, who is responsible. We set up all ticketing. I mean, we need to interface with other teams, have to make sure that they are available when you need them, etc. So we built everything here. And the last 3 loops, we made sure to also capture all timings so that we know exactly how long each task takes. And that's all to like be able to meet the deadline in the end, right? To do this in 1 weekend. And of course, we also kept a very detailed project plan. I mean, this is just a snapshot of the last months. To the left of this one, yeah, that's your left as well. You have the 2.5 more years, looking basically the same, but the loops there were a lot longer, right? We had a lot of development, a lot of alignment, etc. So one of these loops could be months in the beginning, and they eventually got shorter and shorter and shorter as the closer we got to the go live. So at the top of this, you see the majority of the IT activities, like rehearsing the migration. Down from the middle and down, you have the business activities, because I mean we need to take care of all users. We need to document everything. We even took the opportunity to reinvent how we document everything. So we went from like manuals, like Word documents that describes how do you work with Creo Parametric, how do you work with Windchill, etc. How do I release a part to manufacturing, etc. We moved all of that into a commercial tool called Confluence, which is like I'm sure most of you are aware, but we moved all documentation into Confluence and set it up in like a process perspective instead of like these are all the tasks that you can do, A to Z. We put it in process instead, so I can, as a user, go in and see if I want to release a part, then I can find it in like a diagram, click it, and then I come to the training and documentation, etc. How do I do this? It's not quite PTC Copilot, but it's good. And apart from that, I mean, we need to train all stakeholders because we had users in R&D working in both applications. We had manufacturing working in both. We had a lot of stakeholders, etc. So there were a lot of training. And also, of course, we need to like slow down the activity in the applications right before go live. So we had a lot of coaching the business to make sure that they performed all their changes in a big wave right before we had to shut everything down, right? So we were coaching a lot of users to make sure that they got their work done, because a technicality in this is that you cannot migrate an ongoing process. So keep that in mind if you ever want to do something like this. You can never migrate an ongoing process, so that's why we need to finalize everything before we make the switch. All right. One thing to keep in mind is that when you perform something like this for several years, you have, as I said in the beginning, the merge loops were weeks or months. You had a lot of time for testing and validation. When we went live in the beginning, we had 1 weekend, and the IT activities took most of this. So we were left with 4 hours to validate that this had went as expected, right? That we had no bugs or breakages. So we had to reinvent how we tested, and that is basically from the beginning we tested all use cases that we gathered from our users. And in the end, instead, we had to reinvent how we did this, because we have data types, right? We have customizations, we have integrations, we have distribution targets, we have all of these technical bits and pieces that we are migrating. So then we put everything in a matrix like this. And then we basically, like an FBI agent, right, putting pins on a board with photos and putting strings in between them, right? We made sure to like think about how we take one item and do a structure update and maybe create a BOM in ERP and etc. Right? So then you get one line through this, and then we did a lot of this to make it so that it covered all parts that were migrated. And by doing that, we could reduce hundreds of test cases down to 19. I mean, these are not the true use cases of R&D or manufacturing, but they are like fictitious, but nevertheless they tested the entire application. We grouped them into 3 types of scenarios, like simulating R&D and manufacturing use cases where they create, edit, release data. We had the consumption of the data, so we had search portals, we had distribution targets, etc. And then we made sure to double and triple check all consuming applications that consume the data from Windchill as well. And data validation. This is difficult since data is moving all the time. Users are, as I said earlier, I almost wanted to ban marriage at Xylem for a few months and ban people from starting or leaving, etc. Because each time something like this moves, you have to manually map them together. So. And the same with data. I mean, we 2,500 technical changes a year. I mean, that makes a lot of change. So what we did was to create a sample, a data sample, which ended up being 510 Windchill objects. And those represented, if you use parts link, which we do, it's basically an upside down tree, right? Like a tree. And then we went all the way along the trunk, down the branches, and out into each of the leaves on the edge of the tree, right, to find one object on each leaf node, because these leaf nodes are associated with attributes, etc., right? All of the type of information that we migrated. So we picked one or more on all the leaf nodes, and then we took a few more from some of them, right? Because there are some leaf nodes in the classification contains a lot of data, some less, right? So from some leaf nodes we took more than others. And then we also took data from various points in time, because I mean we've been doing this for a long time. We have drawings that are actually in production that were changed 1954, I think, the last time. So we have old data, we have new data. And the most difficult thing is that we could not find an automated way of testing this. So this ended up being basically a manual process. So during the final validation, when we went live, it was extremely manual. You had one Windchill system on one screen, the other on the other one, and you had the list of 510 objects. Go find the differences, right? So that was very, very time intensive, right? Something that we had to practice a lot of. The testers had to practice a lot to be fast, right? Because we did something as well to be able to go live quickly. And that was to create something that we called a decision matrix. And this was used by me to communicate to steering committee and all stakeholders at all times during the project to make sure that we classified everything that could go wrong in this project into 5 categories. And the red one, you're not supposed to read this, but the red one is a data error, data bug. And that was always considered to be a no-go. Then that's a showstopper. And in box number 2, we had an agreement, a pre-aligned agreement between the stakeholders and IT that this needs to be fixed within a certain time limit, right? Etc. I saw the 5 minutes, so I need to speed up. So what happened then at the end of this? We have just a brief picture here that this basically took a week because we took the instance that were to be migrated. We put that in read-only for a few days for data extraction to start, but the business could still view the data, consume the data, but not change. And then the weekend from Friday to Sunday, we ran the scripts, right? Ran all tests, etc. And the crazy thing is that this proceeded without any issues, which was, to me, like, I don't believe this. I got very, very suspicious when we had no issues. So, but nevertheless, we went live. We initiated 3 weeks of hypercare, meaning that all hands on deck, right, to support any issues. And still, we have had only a few non-critical bugs, which have all been solved during 2023. So what's the story with that, right? The time is up, but I mean, there is no slide to create here that can tell you how big of a thing this was for us. But I'd just like to say how proud I am of my team who helped, PDS Vision, for making this happen. I mean, it's extremely complicated, both from a business and an IT perspective, to make this happen. So what's next? Very briefly, we will continue to simplify the application and process landscape, not make it dumber, but make it simpler, the perceived complexity, right? From a user perspective, the user should feel that this is easy, I know how to do this. And continue reducing number of applications. We have been starting to look at how can we de-customize Windchill. It's not a word, but nevertheless, because I mean, Windchill evolves, right? Everything that we have developed might today be possible to do in another, out-of-the-box fashion, maybe. And also, we have been doing mechanical projects for 100 years. Today we are doing smart products, connected products. If we start to sell services, systems, so we need to continuously improve how we store and build data in Windchill moving forward. So that's the next challenges. But I mean, now we have a platform to build on, right, after this project. We did not make more money by having 2 Windchill instances than 1. So we're on the right path, I would say.